But hi, everyone. Welcome to Maddie's Fun's Community Conversations. We're so glad you can join us today. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sheila Kukan, and I'm super excited to be back with my co-host for September, Janel Griffieth. Janelle is a seasoned nonprofit leader with a decade of expertise in community engagement, organizational development, and animal welfare. She is a consultant with JVR Strategies, strategic advisor for the Orphan Kitten Club, program leader for the National Association of Asian American Professionals in Tampa Bay, and a member of the Advisory Committee for Supporting People and Animal Relationships for Change, also known as SPARK. Janelle resides in the Tampa Bay area with her two beloved dogs, Tupac and Rizza, and cherishes the memory of her late soul dog, Dre, whose profound impact continues to shape her life today. And she's also the beneficiary of the cat distribution system with an entire family of kittens that have basically moved in. So thank you, Janelle, so much for everything you do. And thank you for joining me this month as my host for Community Conversations. It's been so wonderful hosting with you.
Thank you, Sheila. It's actually been really wonderful hosting with you. I know you guys can read Sheila's bio on the Maddie's Fun website, but can I say a little something about Sheila? She is a wonderful and fantastic human being and really inspires me to stay in animal welfare because of her kindness and her generosity and her heart. Um, so I'm going to share the question of the day, which is, who inspired you to join this field in animal welfare?
Ooh.
Go ahead and
Who
pull it.
inspired you, Janelle?
Well, my soul dog Dre. If you guys saw my comment or my post on the Maddie's board, community board, it was my dog Dre. He was my first real dog, and he was my soul dog. And I absolutely love him, and I still have him. I have him on my necklace, and I have, it's hard to see, but this is actually a Bambayan, which is an old Filipino dialect. And it says Mahal, which is my love, and he'll forever be my love. And it's his love that inspired me because I wish other people can have that kind of love.
Oh, Janelle, you're going to make me cry this morning. It's all so beautiful. And yes, I know Dre was so special and he still has such a profound impact, as you said. I think I'm trying to think if someone inspired me. I think maybe I just my younger self. I just loved animals and I'm always trying to do that inner child work and that's a photo of myself back there and that same outfit I have framed here on my wall as a reminder of like, hey, little Sheila would be so proud of what you're doing and where you're headed and so it's nice to honor that. So let's see what folks are saying in the chat. Oh, I love this, being a magnet for lost animals my whole life. I think there's something definitely special when animals gravitate towards us.
Yeah. Inspired by wonderful volunteers. That's awesome. At a big canoe. Jean Williams, board member of a Greyhound rehoming group. Love that. Started because of college credits and stayed because of the awesome people and animals. Awesome.
It's amazing. Well, thank you, everyone. Keep it coming. I love reading these. And if you have any national updates, please go ahead and drop those in the chat now as well. And you can also post them on our discussion thread on Maddie's Pet Forum too.
All right. Today we are joined by three wonderful, fantastic people. We have Dr. Azalia Boyd, Ariyonna Johnson,
Hello.
and Ebony Richardson. And I'm going to do a brief intro for all of them. So Dr. Azalia Boyd, you've probably seen her around because she's been around, right? She's a veterinarian consultant and cultural intelligence facilitator with over 16 years of experience in veterinary medicine. Through her company, Boyd Veterinary Services and Consulting, she helps organizations and leaders strengthen cultural intelligence, expand access to care by reducing personal bias, and reimagine how animal welfare and veterinary medicine can better serve both pets and people. She's the founder of the Critters and Cultures podcast, which is a wonderful podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it, make sure you like and subscribe, all of the things. The podcast amplifies diverse voices and challenges systems to think beyond transactional care, encouraging approaches that center empathy, education, and equity. In addition to her consulting and podcast work, Dr. Boyd leads a mentorship program that supports veterinary students from high school through college, preparing them with strong academic foundations, leadership skills, and professional networks. She is a frequent speaker at national conferences and facilitates cultural intelligence workshops designed to equip leaders and teams with tools for inclusion and impact. She is currently practicing as an emergency veterinarian in Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Boyd is deeply committed to creating innovative and inclusive spaces with veterinary medicine and animal welfare. Her work reflects a vision of more compassionate, equitable future, one that uplifts communities, values education, and empowers the next generation of veterinary professionals. Whew, Dr.
Thank
Bo.
you.
Ariyonna Johnson is from Hopkinsville, Kentucky. She's 24 years old and she's pursuing a career in veterinary medicine. She currently holds a bachelor's degree in science with a focus in biology, and her alma mater is Harris Stowe State University. And Ebony Richardson. Ebony is a lifelong animal lover and advocate. Her background in animal science, veterinary medicine, and animal welfare and marketing has led her to found Atlanta Dog Mom, a social club and nonprofit dedicated to creating a more inclusive and accessible pet care community. Thank you guys for being here, and go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for those wonderful introductions, Janelle. I would have definitely made it shorter if I knew it was going to be read, but it's all good. It's all good. We did it, and it'll be in the show notes, right? So, hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Maddie's Community Conversations. I have been both a participant and a listener to the community conversations, and always get something magnificent from each time that I am listening in. And so I'm excited today to kind of do a different style presentation. I've never done this before. I am a podcast host, but today we decided we are going to do a podcast style presentation, okay? Where you guys, the audience, you guys get to be live viewers and listeners of today's episode. So I hope you guys are ready. And like I was so lovely introduced, I am Dr. Azalia Boyd. And yes, I'm an ER veterinarian and a mentor and I think I framed a new term for what I'd like to say is a cultural justice advocate. Many of you know social justice, but cultural justice advocate, because I am deeply interested and committed to making sure that people and individuals' cultures get represented and respected. So that is a lot of what I do on the Critters and Cultures podcast. And I'm going to put a shameless plug here. You guys can follow me on YouTube at Critters and Cultures and subscribe and listen. This Tuesday, which is actually tomorrow, the podcast actually launches, and we launch our first episode with someone with Romani heritage and talking about how her Romani heritage helps her become a better global advocate. So please sign in and tune in to the Critters and Cultures podcast. So today we are doing this podcast style approach, and we're going to talk about reimagining community clinics. And if you saw our title, the title is not just in and out, because when typically we think about community clinics, we often picture vaccine lines, quick services, moving people and pets in and out as fast as possible, right? But I'd like to challenge you. What if these clinics could be a little bit more? What if they could be places of connection, of mentorship, and impact that lasts long after the day is over? Okay. I have two amazing guests with me today. So we do have Ebony Richardson, who is the founder of Atlanta Dog Mom, and Ariyonna Johnson, who is an amazing human being and is one of my mentees. So they'll both will be sharing their experience on today's conversation. Prior to that, I do want to set the stage, okay? Throughout my career, I have been in multiple spaces within the veterinary industry. One, I always say that I would love for the veterinary industry and the animal welfare industry to kind of come together and be a bridge to see how we can work more closely together. Sometimes the two entities or the two, fields seem very much distant. But each space that I have been in has taught me something different. I've been a GP veterinarian, so I've gotten to see the beauty of continuity, knowing a pet from puppyhood all the way to their senior years. Okay, that's been beautiful. I've gotten to be an ER veterinarian where I see the heartbreaks. You guys aren't going to believe this, but I worked I don't know, I feel like it was 30 hours this weekend on Saturday and Sunday alone. But You get to see the heartbreak of pets and people because they're arriving critical because there was either no preventative care or no primary veterinarian guiding them. And then I've also participated in multiple community clinics where you feel that immediate joy and fulfillment of providing vaccines. And you know that those puppies and those kittens and those dogs receive preventative care at that clinic that could save them down the road. But being in all of those spaces, I've also grappled with the tension that kind of plays in my mind. So sometimes, as an ER vet, when I ask my clients, okay, well, who is your regular vet? The answer sometimes is, actually, we don't have one, right? But then when I ask, okay, well, is your pet up to date with vaccines? The answer is, yeah, my pet is up to date with vaccines, right? So that tells me that the vaccine clinics are definitely filling a gap for sure, but also leaving a gap, right? Where that pet gets a relationship with the veterinarian. We know that vaccines alone don't catch dental disease, heart murmurs, tumors, obesity, all of these things, behavioral issues, and they don't typically build trust the same way that a primary care veterinarian does. But I also understand, like many of you, veterinarians are outpricing themselves and something has to be done, right? So it's not to put any blame, it's just for you guys to go on this journey with us on how we can reimagine what community clinics and vaccine clinics can actually look like, okay? So are we doing good with vaccine clinics? Absolutely. Is there potential for harm if we don't reimagine the model? Yes. And I know we cannot be everything to everyone. My mom used to say that all the time. But what if we just added a little bit more to the clinic model? And that's the conversation that I want to have today. So, Ebony and Ariyonna, it is showtime. Thank you for joining us today on, we're going to call this the Maddie Community Conversations podcast. I've had the opportunity to work with both of you, and I'm excited that we get to have this conversation today. And people are just going to tune in and we're going to have a real conversation about what this looks like and how this has impacted you both. The three of us recently participated in a community clinic that looked a little different than the traditional clinic. So we've actually put this in practice. And I will say that I know you, Ebony, as the organizer, faced a bit of criticism for other people that have done vaccine clinics. And we were kind of talking about, what this criticism was all about. People didn't want you to do it this way. So I want to dive into that because it wasn't the standard vaccine clinic. So, Ebony, my question is going to be to you. Tell us about what inspired you to organize the community clinic.
Thanks, Dr. Boyd. That's a really good question. I'll say like you, I've had various experiences in and around vet med, animal welfare. I've worked in dog training. I've worked in pet insurance. I am a veterinary assistant now. I've always worked in GP, but just seeing the different perspectives of, like you said, the gaps. And I think in working in so many different areas of animal welfare, I was able to see where the pieces are getting dropped a little bit, and where there's kind of a need. And so I think when I wanted to do a vaccine clinic, I approached it from the perspective of I want to fix a problem. I didn't want to just copy and paste what was already out there. I kind of wanted to survey and get a fresh perspective using my passions and my unique experiences to kind of solve a problem. And I think I saw a lot of things that you mentioned of sometimes I think when it comes to things that are like low cost, there's a big focus on high volume. And I think there is a place and time for that. And it definitely is helping a lot of people. And I think that we don't all have to offer the same type of thing. And so I was just kind of looking from, okay, like you said, we do have the high volume, typical vaccine clinics, and they are handling a lot and solving a lot of problems. How can I pick up where they left off? What can I do that kind of bridges that gap?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a lot of my approach. If I thought, a lot of times when people are going to vaccine clinics because they are short on time, I think sometimes these are the people who need to be able to have conversations and have someone just kind of slow down and review things with them the most, especially if they're, if they're using vaccine clinics and things like that as their means of vet care, right? I think of it similar with humans. There, some people, when we don't have the health insurance that we need, the emergency room is your preventative care. You don't have a PCP, right?
Yeah.
And I think the vaccine clinics sometimes can be that same way of the people who probably have the most questions are getting the least amount of time, are getting the least amount of resources. And so I kind of wanted to combine the two to say like, hey, how can we help people who need help, and also create a welcoming environment where people are uh, happier to interact with their veterinarians. Because like you said, from the veterinary perspective, I see often how people feel like veterinarians are like their enemy, or like it's me versus the vet, or I don't want to talk to the vet no more than I need to. I don't want to
Yeah.
spend no more money in there than I need to. And so I wanted to create space to understand that you and your vet are on the same side, and your vet, your dog trainer, your animal welfare team, it's like a community approach, and we're
Yeah.
all going to help you get the care that you need.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure that there are questions in the chat. And if there's not, you guys feel free to add questions. Again, this is the live podcast episode. So what I'm hearing is that you found this gap, you found a problem, and then you tried to address the problem. I'm going to drop a little bit of research and then go back to it. Research shows that 28% of dog and cat owners surveyed in a national study used low-cost vaccine clinics, and about half of them never saw a full-service veterinarian afterwards, right? And so you saw that as a problem, right? What's happening to that percent, those percent of pet owners and pets? But something you mentioned, you said you wanted to slow it down a little bit. Okay. And I think that that's some of the criticism that you were facing, is that you want to slow it down to provide education and to provide a little bit more time. And the pushback was, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to service a large number of pets. How do you, do a model where you feel like you're slowing down to give community members and pet owners a little bit more time, but then also maybe not see as many pets? How do you make uh, make that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I feel like I was kind of walking a fine line and kind of crafting the design of the clinic. Well, I'll say this. One, understanding that the model that we're using, I refer to it as Community Vet Day, because I think even the name in itself, I was calling it Community Vet Day, like amongst me and the board, but I think in saying a vaccine clinic, people already have an idea in mind of what it's supposed to be. So if you say, I want to do a vaccine clinic, but I want to do XYZ, then some people go, wait, that's not a vaccine clinic. And it was important for me to get that feedback, because I think I also wanted pet parents to understand the type of service that they can expect as well. And so to make sure that I'm communicating like, hey, this is more than just your typical vaccine clinic. We want you to have time to ask questions. We want you to feel comfortable, or even feel and especially in a non-judgmental environment, of you're probably coming in with something that, a lot of times pet parents come in and they say, I know I should have been here sooner, or I shouldn't have let it get this bad. And they come in already judging themselves. And so I wanted to have a much, make sure we understand that we're not judging them, and that they're very welcome.
Yeah.
And also to kind of streamline the approach, as far as there are some elements that we'll take from a traditional vaccine clinic of, for example, like the intake paperwork. I tried to make it as concise as possible, and get as much information as we needed for that day, to be able to kind of steer the conversation once they got in the room, to make sure we understand what they need to understand and how we can best help them. I also kind of created like what I called go home sheets, which is like when they left the veterinary clinic, they had one piece of paper that is very, I don't say this in a negative way, just to understand statistics. They say the average person in the United States reads at like a 6th grade level. And I think sometimes when it comes to education on the vet med side, I think sometimes we can drop the ball by printing out 10 pieces of paper from like the NIH and just handing them to people and go, all right, here's what you did today. And then kind of say, well, if they don't go home and read it, that's on them. Or, you know, like we did our part, or we'll go in and go down our spiel of what all these vaccines mean and why. And they walk out and they're like, wait, what?
What? Yeah, so many what's. And then I see them on the emergency side, right? Seeing that they only actually received 2 vaccines and now they're really sick. And here we are at the ER. I want to get into Ariyonna, I'm going to pull you in here, but just very high level, Ebony, can you tell us the sections that you had? So if someone wanted to recreate this, I know you haven't done this much, right? This is your second one, but it was so successful. And I'm inviting the audience to kind of be on this journey with you in this process or with us. What stations did you have? What, you know, very high level, kind of what stations did you have to make the education model work? And then I'm going to tie in Ariyonna with the mentorship.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say what really I think knocked it out of the park for us this time is having someone that I classified as like an educator, which is someone who is fluent in vet med, maybe already worked in vet med, is confident and able to lead the appointment, and then pairing them up with someone who I refer to as an assistant, which is someone with various levels of experience. They may be brand new, they may work as CSR, but are trying to get some more hands-on. But the idea was to have each person have their own personal person that they ask questions to that are slowing down to show them this is what we're doing and why. The kind of answering the questions on behalf of the pet loving family as well as the person who's learning. And ideally, if we can have 2 educators and 2 assistants per veterinarian, was the ideal flow to be able to make sure that everyone, including the pet parent and the mentee who's being educated, has time to stop and ask questions along the way. And then we had for check-in, we had someone come and do check-in and just give them little pagers to let them know when their appointment time is ready, so that it's not everyone show up at the same time and we're just kind of standing in line and waiting around. The dogs are getting irritated, you know, preventing dog hits and yes,
that happens. So it sounds like you had, because I was there and I kind of witnessed this whole magic happen. You had departments before this kind of, you know, flushed out. You had an education department, a team that was strictly responsible for educating. And then you had, you know, different levels, your mentorship department, right? And I'll share with the audience. So I have 20 mentees that I actually, we meet monthly. We kind of, you know, talk about leadership and networking and vet med and all the things that come in with that. And these are aspiring veterinarians. And Ebony actually partnered with me and invited me to bring my mentees into the space. So Ariyonna, I'm going to tag you in on this here. You actually, I mean, it blows my mind every time I think about this, because you and I have been working together, me as your mentor, for maybe a little bit over a year, right? We have shared so many tears. You live in Kentucky and you drove 6 hours to Atlanta to get this experience.
Yes.
Tell me about, I mean, I'm so honored to actually be your mentor. You are an incredible person. Tell me about your experience in Kentucky. Why did you have to drive so far for a community clinic?
So I have literally been trying to get vet med experience since before I graduated high school. And it's just very hard. There's not a lot of opportunities here, and most of it is like shadowing, volunteering, and stuff of that nature, which is cool, you know, sometimes, but you can't rely on that for full time. Of course, you still have to live life, pay bills, things like that. So I was really just looking to go somewhere that would give me what I was missing. Like I'm missing the being able to be in the back rooms with the vet, with the techs, looking at them run tests, just getting that hands-on experience and also that diversity. Like for example, now where I work at, there's only 7 of us all together. It's a small private practice and it's not very diverse. So coming to Atlanta and just seeing people who look like me, sound like me, talk like me, act like me, it just really made me feel welcomed. Like this, okay, this is my career. I'm choosing the correct career path, because you always want to make sure you choose something, you know, you can be comfortable in and be yourself in and not have to wear a mask every day. So it was just a wonderful experience, and I would drive 6 hours again if you have another one.
Well, that is really good. I actually love that. Thank you for sharing the experience. But so many of you know that a lot of students, not just Ariana, but a lot of students have difficulty getting experience, right? They want you to work as a vet assistant, but they want you to have experience. And it's like, where do we get this experience from? So this community clinic actually, provided you, Ariana, with an opportunity to get some additional experience. Now, you work at a clinic right now, and usually the first place is you're either going to work in the kennel or you're going to work as the receptionist, right? And currently you're a
Yes.
receptionist, and they won't let you in the back, right? To
Right.
see all the things. But what happened when you drove 6 hours, came to Atlanta, you immediately felt welcome, which goes to show why diversity is important in these fields, right? And then tell me about your day. What was the day like for you?
Oh my gosh. I dream about that day still. I had so much fun. But like she was saying, far as having like two assistants, somebody in there going in there giving out information, and then someone helping the doctor. I was actually one of the ones that was giving like the animal care and just going over routines and telling them that, you get vaccines this often and so often. And I felt like it did help kind of fill that gap, because we were in each room maybe for like between 30 and 40 minutes, just in there talking with the clients and helping with their pets. And a lot of them did not understand that you have to get routine vaccines and boosters and stuff like that. A lot of people believe that, once you get your first round of shots, that's all they need. So they don't understand that, you have to keep coming back, or every so year, every so often. So it was just good to get to interact and actually be able to teach people what goes on with these pets, because a lot of people think that, you just get the pets and that's
And
just
that's
it.
it.
Like, yeah.
You have to care for the pets, right? But you know
Right.
what I'm most interested on, Ariana, is I'm going to take it deep with you here. How was the experience for you? What did you get to do hands-on that you've never been able to do before? And I kind of know the answer, but I wanted to share it. I mean, I was so impressed with you, but what did you get to do that you've never been able to do before?
So the two top things that were like the highlight of my day that I got to do is I got to do a blood draw on a puppy. I think it was a Cocker Spaniel, and I was running heartworm tests, which I don't do here. So I got to learn how to do that, and everybody was, like I say, really welcoming. Like when they noticed, like I was kind of, because I'm used to shadowing and volunteering, so I was kind of like standing over them and watching, and they were like, "Do you know how to do this?" I was like, "No," and they're like, "Come on, I'm gonna teach you. Like I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna get you hands on." So I just love that they took me in and took me under their wing and actually took the time to show me and correct me on how to do things that I didn't previously know how to do.
Yeah. And I remember this when you got your first blood draw, you were like, I got my first blood draw. You did a little dance and you did it on the first time, right? And it was so incredible. I was so proud. I was like, that's my mentee. But that's amazing. So, I mean, I'm hoping that everyone's getting from the audience, just listening in as you are creating these community clinics. Really think about who else you can pull in. Think about how else you can continue to build community relationships, build relationships with students who are looking so desperately and driving hours for opportunities, and mentorship, right? Ariana, my next question to you is, how did it influence your, well, you said it, right? You said that you really, once after this clinic, you went home and you were like, yes, this is definitely for me. This is the field that I want to be in. What would you tell other students or young people who might feel veterinary medicine is out of their reach? Because for a while you weren't sure.
Yes. I would tell them to really just be patient and take it slow, and literally do all of the research you possibly can to make sure this is the field that you want to do. Because like she said, I currently work as a receptionist, and I don't want to spend my whole life as a receptionist, but going to that community clinic, I got to be in the back and see how the back worked. And I was like, okay, I like this. I like the fast pace. I like the running around like the chicken with your head cut off. Like throw me in the chaos. That's what I like. So
Yeah.
I would just say to network, reach out to people, even if they don't respond, or if they do respond and the answer is no, take it with a grain of salt and just put yourself out there, get out the box, which is what she has been trying to make me do. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
a journey.
it is definitely a journey. Ebony, who are your key partners in pulling this whole thing off? You have educators, you have mentees. How did that look? And what advice would you give to other organizations looking to build similar partnerships?
You know what? That's a good question because I just saw I saw in the chat someone, I think it was Diane, wanted to know ideas for getting the closest vet students involved because their veterinary school is pretty far away. I would say it doesn't have to be veterinary students. It's people in your network who are willing to teach, and people in your network, I would say, who are kind and excited about sharing new opportunities. As far as key partners, you, Dr. Boyd, you were one of my first. I'll never forget the first time I ever wanted to offer vaccines at one of my clinics. I reached out to you and she was just immediately like, yes. She's like, I want to support you. I love what you're doing. I love the community that you're trying to serve. And that's always just been important to me in the back of my mind of partnering with people who have similar goals as you, and who see your ethos and your ethics, because you want to be able to have a safe space to ask questions and ask for feedback if you want to, you know, be able to improve what you're doing and grow. So I would say you're definitely a key partner, but also this clinic is supported by Maddie's Fund. So this is our second community care clinic that we've ever done. But because of the support with Maddie's Fund, we're already scheduled to have 3 next year. So we're going from 1 a year to 3 in 1 year, which is really great. But
I have to pause there because every time I talk about Maddie's Fund to other people, um, everyone's highlighting Maddie's Funds. You know, I hear so many amazing things about Maddie's Fund. How would you, you know, what is the advice that you would say to individuals who, you know, need access to money and finances to be able to put this on? How were you able to build this partnership with Maddie's?
I would say just if you're really clear about what you want to do, and just be very vocal about that, then the right people will kind of find their way into your corner. I got in contact with Maddie's Fund by way of a conference that I was gifted a scholarship to by way of another network that I'm affiliated with, Elevate. But it really all just started of me just saying what was on my mind and trying to find like-minded people who also saw these things and wanted to fill in these gaps. And I think that it just having organic partnerships, I would say, is the most influential way that I've gone about networking, is truly not doing necessarily what people say, like, oh, you know, you got to go to these influencer events or you got to go be in these certain spaces. I feel like if you're true to yourself, then people who agree with you will find you. And that one or two solid people in your corner who truly support what you're doing is better than a bunch of I would say, like, superficial connections. So just really figure out what your goals are and what you want to do and be confident in that, and the right people will find you.
That is amazing. I have a question for both of you. Um, Given that 90% of veterinarians, 80% of veterinary students are white, what
Hmm.
role can community clinics play in diversifying the pipeline? How do we ensure that mentorship opportunities are inclusive and culturally responsive?
I'll let you go first, Ariana, or
Um, what happened? Oh, okay. That question was a little long. Can you repeat it,
Yeah,
please?
I'll make it simple because sometimes my questions can be crazy, but so much of the industry is white, right? Both veterinarians and veterinary students. Where do you see community clinics? Where do you see the role of community clinics helping to diversify the field?
I honestly have kind of like a stuck answer for that just because of my geographics and where I'm located. I live in such a small city. Like, I would have never even heard about community clinic or clinic day or anything if it wasn't for Dr. Boyd and being able to travel to Atlanta, because we don't even host things like that here where I'm from. So I would really just say, like, try to get your networking and your connections, and look in places that you don't usually look, because everybody can have like a polished portfolio or polished resume, but it's very unlikely to find people who are willing to get their hands dirty and willing to actually put in the blood, sweat, and tears that comes with working in a vet clinic or being a veterinarian. Because there is not even too many people that I know that look like me that even attempt to try. Of course, it's on their mind, but they're like, I don't even know where to start. Where do I do? Where do I go? So I feel like there's just a big bridge between minorities getting started and, getting their foot in the door, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, 100%. Ebony, what about you? Might be
You
a
know,
similar response.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with Ariyonna. What she said that stood out is look in places where you don't normally look. I think sometimes an easy way that we let ourselves off the hook about diversity is to say things like, well, I chose from the applicants who applied. And I think you have to think about why does a certain demographic or group feel more comfortable applying to others? Because you either have to be very honest with yourself if you believe that certain demographics don't care about animals the same way that you do, or don't, whatever it is that you believe, like I said, just be honest. Because if you truly do not believe, like, hey, I don't think people care about animals differently based off of their background, right? So going off of that, then those people are out there. So then you focus your efforts on finding those people instead of pretending like those people don't exist, or if they're not served to you on a silver platter, that you just can't include them. You just have to be intentional. You can be intentional in the imagery that you use as you like promote your event or your website, your veterinary clinic. You can be intentional in the language that you use and be intentional in the places that you show up, where you have your booths, right? Like if people have their tables and they're going to speak to others. I think a lot of times in animal welfare, we end up preaching to the choir, and we're going to the same people and going to the same volunteers and the same fosters, and everybody's overstretched. And so I think people really need to take a hard look at what they're overlooking. Because I mean, even myself, I'll put myself on the spotlight as I live in Clayton County, Georgia right now, but for most of the time that I lived in Georgia, I've lived in Fayette County. And when I did the nonprofit and started thinking about like what area of town do I want to help, all of my family mostly still lives in Fayette County, and I live literally about 10 minutes away from Fayette County. So I was very tempted to be like, hey, let me go to the Fayette County Animal Shelter and tell them about my program and what's going on. And I had to realize too, like I'm overlooking where I'm actually at. Like if I'm in Clayton County and Clayton County needs help, why would I go look across town to help people where I don't even live anymore? So it's really like just opening your eyes and looking around, that there are people who want to help, and there are people of all backgrounds who want to participate. And if those people are not finding their way to your program naturally, then you have to go get them. It's your responsibility to go get them and figure out why it's not happening.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for your insights and sharing your experiences today. I know that they were deeply personal. Ariyonna, I promise the next time we have one in Atlanta, you will be the first to know. But I hope that today everyone's kind of, expanded their viewpoint as you're building community clinics. Who can you partner with? Where can you find students? What partnerships can we have, and what did the community actually need? Does the community need the high volume, quick turnover in and out model? Maybe it does, and that is fine. But we do have to start thinking outside of the box as we, continue to provide exceptional care and care about community pets. So thank you both so much, so much. One of the things that I want everyone listening to know is, and ask yourself, how can we create not just a line for vaccines, but how can we bridge between people, pets, and the profession? I think that it's incredibly important. Obviously, I want everyone to continue to take care of themselves. When we're in this field, we can carry so much of the emotions around wanting to provide for every single pet and save every single pet. And we know that we can only do the best we can. So we need to be cared for before we're able to care for others. So make sure we're continuing to care for ourselves. And Ariyonna, thank you so much. Ebony, thank you so much. And Sheila and Janelle, thank you so much. And would be happy to take questions if that is something that interests the guest, if we have time.
We have time and we have questions. But I'm going to take host privilege and ask my question first.
Yes.
I know this is going to be a difficult question to answer, but I think it's something that I think a lot of people in the animal welfare industry probably think about. I've been in this industry a long time. How do you kind of, where does that line draw where we're educating somebody on proper animal care, and then we go, well, actually now we're crossing into animal neglect and animal abuse? Where's that line, like to the point where we stop education and we're going, this is not getting through to them, we must report it?
Oh, goodness. That is a really good question. And I don't know, and Ariyonna or Ebony, do you guys want to answer? Do you want me to jump in?
Dr. Boyd, I think you probably have better insight
Okay.
on like an answer to that. I will say, I don't really have an answer, but as much as I have an approach, I just really try to assume that everybody is trying the best that they can. I think that goes miles as far as the people that we're interacting with and like our mental health as animal welfare professionals. So if I'm talking to people and they seem like they don't know, I'm not gonna go, wow, you're a whole breeder and you don't even know about flea and tick. I'm just gonna assume, hey, no one's ever told you this before. I'm telling you, like I always start with like a fresh slate and try not to take anything that has occurred personally. I will talk to you, I will explain it to you like you're 5. And I think that kind of helps it helps you kind of discern intent of if it's like, hey, does this person truly not understand? Because I know I've been talking to them from a non-judgmental, very basic, I'm not mad at you, I'm just trying to help you perspective. And then I guess from there, if you see a pattern, then you can step in. But I would say first, I would assume that this is their first day on earth and they've never had a pet before, and talk to them like that and start from there.
Yeah, I like that answer. I'll piggyback that. So I have been in a lot of situations, unfortunately, where I have seen pets at what I would consider to be the worst, right? I shared the story once before, but there was a lady who came into the emergency clinic, body condition score with 9 being the fattest, 5 being normal body condition score. Our baby was about at a 3, so very much emaciated, right? When I actually went in the room, of course, the technicians and everyone was like, call them, report her immediately. I hadn't even met the lady yet. But when I went into the exam room and the lady took off her jacket, her body condition score was also a 3 out of 9. Okay. So she was also very thin. And just having that conversation with her about nutrition, about can I get her connected to a food pantry, she was able to open up about her story and about the struggles where most of us would assume neglect. What was happening in that moment was lack of resources. So I agree with Ebony. Just, take everyone as an individual. As far as your question in regard to when does the education stop, I don't think it should ever stop, right? I think you don't bombard people with all of the information all at once. Make sure clients have 1 or 2 clear takeaways for what you're trying to get to them in that moment. And then you just follow up with support if they're open to it. In my opinion, for me, being in the profession for a while, neglect is obvious to see, right? Physical abuse is obvious to see. Those are the things. But I always kind of question whether it's lack of resources or lack of education, and or neglect. So I think it is very pertinent to kind of define that, put that line in.
Thank you, guys. I know that's a tough question.
That's a hard
It's
one,
one of
yeah.
those things that you face, right? Like, we don't want to be judgmental, but at the same time, it's like, at what point do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Here's another great question, though. Are you mostly doing, when your community clinics, are they mostly vaccinations? Do you also reference any local spay and neuter clinics to help curb the overpopulation? Do they even exist in some areas at all?
That's a really good question. So I'll say for the clinic that we partner with to host the Community Vet Care Day, also does low cost spay neuter. So it was really great because we were able to kind of like holistically address. What I did for Community Vet Day is ask people to treat it like they're presenting for they're presenting for vaccines, but if you do see something that is an illness that you can kind of treat quickly without a lot of further diagnostics, like if you see like skin issues and you think you can just give like an antibiotic for that, then to go ahead and cover that too, because one thing that I saw in vaccine clinics before is that if it's just vaccines and the dog comes in with an ear infection, then sometimes they say, hey, we can't vaccinate today. Your dog is sick. You need to go home, book another appointment, pay for a sick visit, come back. And usually that doesn't happen. So my approach would be like, this is for vaccines, but if we see them and we see that they have something else going on, we can treat that too within the time that we have and within the resources that they have. And as far as like the comprehensive and spay neuter on the go home sheets that I have, we have checked off of like, what do I need to do now? And literally it's spelled out just as simple as like, my next steps are ... book an appointment for spay and neuter, book an appointment for dental, and then they stop at the reception on the way out to book those appointments for them. So I would say if you could partner with someplace that already does like spay and neuter, or maybe even have someone from them on site to say, hey, I work there, I have my laptop, I can book appointments. And so we can make sure that the follow-up is happening. So I think sometimes the ball can get dropped when we push it off on the pet owners to say, make sure you come back in 2 weeks and go ahead and book the appointment for them. So they're already getting reminders. So even if they forget about it, they can reschedule, things like that.
Completely second that answer. Partnerships are the way to go. This particular clinic that we did, like Ebony said, was at a facility that already does that. So that partnership was amazing.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and then of course we can go into the pet forum. But this is a really good question because this is something that a lot of people deal with. How do you draw vets to your area? The closest vet school is over 300 miles away, closer to large cities. Once many students graduate, that high school debt drives them to larger cities to help pay those bills. Can't blame them. I'm with you on that one, Jennifer. Can't blame them. They have to go to cities to make money. So what
Yeah.
about more rural communities? How do you draw vets?
A quick
Well,
question.
I'll say, as far as like the drawing in vets, like to come like live and work at I'll let maybe Dr. Boyd speak for that, but I'll say it was really helpful in our clinics to really utilize veterinary assistants and veterinary technicians. And so like originally when we planned the clinic, we had 3 vets. Due to like COVID and other things, we ended up with like 1.5 vet. Like we had a vet and then a vet that came in for a few hours. And we were really able to still keep things up and running because we had so many seasoned veterinary assistants and vet techs. So I would say, especially if it comes to like a community clinic day, even if you don't have a lot of veterinarians who can mentor, you probably do have some vets or vet techs, vet assistants or vet techs. And I would be open-minded about using either one of those titles as long as they're confident in what they're doing. I know there's a lot of push to go towards like credentialed vet techs, and that's great if you have them available. But a lot of times you don't have them available, and there are plenty of veterinary assistants who are willing to teach, good with showing people how to do things. And so I would say I would utilize a lot of the veterinary team that you do have, even if they're not veterinarians.
Yeah. I would say this. I wrote down 3 points because I think that's a really good question, right? The first point is if you are, and this is specifically talking about community day clinics, you might have to go into the city, right? And just say, hey, this is what we're doing, right? This is what we're doing. Explain to individuals that there's a lack of veterinarians in the community that you're in, et cetera, and invite them into your world, okay? And I would also say a lot of vets, we want to do the good work. But if they're driving from, driving into a rural community, it might be beneficial to have multi-day events. So, if you're instead of doing it once a week, maybe you're doing it, back to back. So that one drive for them is very easy. And I will say that, yes, vets do need to make their money. They're going to go into the inner cities. But there's also a lot of studies that show that just the culture around where people work drive them more than the money. Right.
Mhm.
So what does that culture look like at the community clinics? Does it look like the vet's sweating, running around? Someone just said something foul to the veterinarian and it's not a good experience for them because then they won't come back, right? So creating that culture, spending time to curate what that looks like, spending time to let those vets know, hey, if you come in, we're going to do 2 days back to back, but We're going to do 8 hours, but you're going to have a really good team. And not only are you going to have a great team to support you, there's also going to be mentees that are learning from you. This is going to be multi-purpose. This is going to be so beneficial. And, there's a sense of pride when it's like, oh, okay, I'm not just being used for the rabies vaccine, right? Or my license, but a deeper purpose. And so I would say dive into the culture of whatever it is that you're trying to set up. Consider it multi-day and multi-purpose.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Dr. Boyd. Thank you, Ariyonna. Thank you, Ebony, for this discussion. It's really awesome. I can't wait to learn more. So go ahead and go to the Maddie's Pet Forum and throughout the week and to continue the discussion. Feel free to post any more questions too. Let's continue the conversation there as well. So here's a reflection question for you guys. How can you reimagine the services you provide, whether in a clinic, shelter, or a community space, so that they move beyond transactions and become opportunities for education, mentorship, and lasting connection?
Thank you so much to our incredible panelists. And yes, folks, if you haven't answered this question, please join us on Maddie's Pet Forum to answer it there. Thank you so much to my co-host, Janel. It has really been a pleasure co-hosting with you this month. And good news for anyone who's going to miss Janel, she will be back for a conversation on October 20th. So save the date and please join me in thanking Janel for being such a wonderful co-host. It's truly been a pleasure. And coming up next week, we have a presentation titled Standing Alone, Standing Strong, Navigating Isolation in Animal Welfare with Raquel Bernaldo from the Friends of Alameda Animal Shelter. So that's definitely going to be another wonderful conversation. And if you're interested in hosting or if you have topics or speakers you'd like to hear from, please let us know in our suggestions, which will be dropped in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation with you all. And thank you again to our amazing panelists and my amazing co-host, Janel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.